Hey,
Hello. How are you
how
doing
you doing,
today?
everyone? I'm really well. I'm in the jungle here, and you're looking very swish and indoors and dressed up.
I am, and I want to welcome everyone to this fifth Adventist Church Online Network broadcast. We're so excited that you're joining us here today. If you've been with us on this journey, you know in the first week we talked all about what the possibilities were. In the second week, we talked a little bit about your teams. The third week, we talked about tech. We went really deep into tech, whether it was you're just starting off or if you were, kind of advanced. We talked about a phone ecosystem. Adrian went into that. Last week, we talked about the online journey for your visitors. And this week, we're going to talk a little bit about the online journey for your members, as well as some of the models or templates of what church might look like for you in this space. And one of the exciting things about today is there's going to be a lot of calls to action. So I hope we have action takers with us today on the broadcast because we want you to do something. Don't just watch passively. Like James said, if James were in our day, he would tell you not to just be listening, but to be pressing those buttons to listen to our calls to action to actually do something today.
Okay, but before we go anywhere, we just want to jog your memory on what that online journey looks like. Last week, Rachel took us through a really good logical structure of what a visitor online journey might look like. We're going to transition this week to looking at what a member online journey looks like, but let's check out that video from last week just to refresh our memories.
Is your church looking to be more intentional in the online space? Try creating an online journey. A journey asks and answers the question, what's next? So, they visited your website or watched your live stream? Great! What's next? We'll answer that question in 8 simple steps. The first step is discovery. Someone may find your church through a video. Now, keep the conversation going. The next step is passive participation. It's when someone reads your article or asks for prayer. However, we still don't know who they are. So, we ask them to sign up on email, text message, or social media so we can get to know them and what they're interested in. Next, we offer a small commitment. This may be a webinar, health program, or even a Bible study group. The best offer is aligned with their needs and not too long or overwhelming. Next, it's time to wow them. Do something unexpected and memorable, like a thanks for visiting phone call from the pastor, a card in the mail, or an invite to a meal. With time, you can encourage your visitor to make bigger commitments as appropriate, like watching a live stream with you, joining a Bible study, or even getting baptized. As they grow, they begin to actively participate and advocate. If asked, they may say something positive about your church or ministry, share a testimony, or even a social media post. Finally, your online visitor has transformed into someone actively involved and telling people about Jesus often, with no outside prompting. Remember, journeys are seldom quick, straight lines. We all wander and get turned around. The same can happen to your online visitor. So, make each experience memorable and compelling, and help them reconnect if necessary. Most importantly, be intentional in whatever you do online.
Yeah, look, Rachel, when you first showed me this whole online journey thing, I was like bamboozled by all the stages and the steps. But once I worked my way through that visitor journey, it all started to make sense. There was a logical flow there. So can you just talk us through that logical flow, but in particular, how you then adapt it for a member online journey?
Okay, that's a great question, Kent. And I think it's first thinking about how we all use the online space. So how did you first hear about, the Bible Project? Or how did you first hear about the favorite store that you like to buy your shoes at? There's a discovery process where you just become aware and then you kind of start looking around. You might sign up for something. They might engage you a little bit, and it just kind of takes you progressively on this journey. And if they do it well, it's pretty seamless. Like you don't really notice that it's happening. And I think as we think about visitors, we might think about them going deeper and deeper into our processes. But what about our members? Do you have members, or are you one of those members who might watch the live stream and then, feel like, I've gone to church today and my job is done here? I think that Jesus calls us into something a little bit deeper, even in the online space. So that's what we want to chat about today. How can we go deeper as members into that journey in the online space?
Okay, do you have some like visuals that you can show us to sort of explain this flow, just to refresh our
Yes.
memories?
So this one's actually going to be the online member journey. So if you look there, like Kent said, if you're a very logical person who likes to see everything kind of neat and clean, this might be like, oh, this is overwhelming. But you don't need to be overwhelmed, because you can get your own copy of this and you can walk through it yourself with your local church. And we have a website where you can go and sign up to get a copy, or you can join me on a workshop after this to help you walk through your online member journey. And that sign up will then also, I'll put that up on the screen as well. So it's just basically taking you through each and every one of those steps of what needs to happen. You'll see at the bottom of your screen, if you'd like to sign up, you can do it right now. Remember, we said today is for action takers. So if you want to sign up, you can do it now. And go to that website that you see at the bottom, and you'll be able to download these two, the online member journey and the online visitor journey. And there's also a blank sheet. So everything that's filled out, they're just examples of what could go in each of those boxes. And the blank one will help you walk through. Now, if this is confusing, that's fine. You don't need to get it on the first try. But just download it so you can kind of follow along with us and you can start getting an idea for what's going to happen.
Yeah, and for the newcomer, I guess, start right there in the bottom left. That's where it's, you are here. Work your way through.
But Kent wanted to know yesterday, is like, where do I start?
Where do I start? Yeah. Now, look, we got a really exciting session planned today, Rachel. And this first guest we got coming up is really, really exciting.
Yes.
Justin Coe, can you tell us, is it Coy? I can't remember. Hey, well, there he is. He can tell us.
Hey, how's it going? And it's pronounced Justin Koo.
Koo, that's right. I knew it wasn't the obvious code, because I've actually seen a few of your videos. I know Rachel's a big fan. What's grabbed you about Justin's journey so far, Rachel?
It's funny because I remember meeting Justin online several years ago, and even before he came to the Digital Discipleship Conference, and I saw that Christian vlogger, and I was, really surprised that he was Adventist, and just started chatting with him. And it's been really amazing to see how God has led you along your journey, and then how you've also helped to help others. I think that's the most exciting part. If we talk about journeys, it's not just, you increasing your platform, but I love the way that you've been helping other people to be able to spread the gospel in the online space as well. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Rachel, especially for all that you're doing in this whole digital missions movement. The Digital Discipleship Conference has been an annual favorite, an annual highlight of my year. And unfortunately, this year we couldn't be there. But if you haven't gone yet, whenever things open up again, you have to go to a Digital Discipleship Conference for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, can you give us just a little bit of background about yourself, where you're based, what the whole Christian Vlogger project was about, and the transition you've now made to your I'm Listening project? I've checked out some of those videos like in recent months and really enjoyed them.
Oh, thank you very much. So my background is in traditional ministry. I did a lot of evangelism, literature evangelism, Bible work, public evangelism. I've personally knocked on about 100,000 doors in my experience. And all that kind of got turned upside down when I met a young person by the name of Michael Chorinowski III, who actually became a Christian, who became a Seventh-day Adventist because of a YouTube video. And I thought, my goodness, this is crazy, because I spend so much time and energy and just resources passing out books and trying to get Bible study requests, and yet the same content that's going on out to our churches, the same content that we might be giving in our classrooms, theoretically, this stuff can be hosted on the internet and adapted so that it fits the kind of vibe and feeling of what's happening on social media, and can have the same impact. And so about 4 years ago, I ended up leaving my job working for the Columbia Union Conference in the East Coast of the United States, and went all in on social media ministry. Started with a YouTube channel called That Christian Vlogger. The goal was just a modest couple hundred subscribers. And after a year of work, I figured, hey, a church plant, if it gets 100 or 200 people, that's huge success. And my surprise was that God wanted to do much more. After 1 year, we had reached over 10,000 people, and presently we have an audience of over 100,000 people all around the world, and it's been absolutely exciting seeing what God has been doing lately.
And I think as we're chatting about that, I think one thing that's been interesting is that I think, and it took everyone by surprise, is that when you decided to shift your ministry towards I'm Listening, can you just give us some insights into why and how that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I was realizing was I was really speaking to us, preaching to the choir, preaching to the church, and that's a great thing. And we need ministries like that are doing Bible teachings and practical how to study the Bible, how to pray better, Christian dating and relationship. All of that stuff is really good. but I really had a heart towards reaching people that the church wasn't reaching. And I'm a really firm believer that if we want to get different results, we have to try different things. And as much as I think that live streaming church on the internet is a really valuable thing, especially in coronavirus, the reality is that not a lot of unbelievers, not a lot of non-Christians are interested in these types of conversations, are interested in this type of content. And so I started trying to ask myself, well, what is the world really looking for? What kind of dialogues are people looking for? And so rather than talking about people, like talking about my atheist friends or talking about my gay friends or talking about these people, I figured, you know what? How about I actually just do what Jesus did and actually spend time with the very people that I'm trying to reach, not talking about them and certainly not even talking to them, but instead, what if I did what I think Jesus would do oftentimes if he was in our position and just listen to them? And so my content now is me literally opening up the platform for people of all kinds of perspectives, pagan, atheists, voting differently politically, different religious views and different views on sexuality and a whole number of different things, and just trying to understand them and learn from them.
Yeah,
so this is basically if Jesus were a YouTuber.
I'm hoping. I mean, that's what I'm basing it off of. I don't always get it right, but that's certainly the heart of what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I've seen some really powerful encounters that you've had with a guy who calls himself, I think, is the angry atheist, who you actually became quite good friends with. The raging atheist, or the one I really loved was your barber, who told you his whole story of spiritual searches and spiritual encounters, and even going to Latin America and basically taking hallucinogenic drugs in search of a spiritual experience, and you're just sitting there just going, I'm listening. My job is to listen here, and just incredible the learning and the connection that you're able to get with people when you're not there to judge. You're not there to set them straight, but you're there to understand who they are. It's really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I've been learning so much from these people. My entire worldview and all the preconceived notions of who people are have really been shifting around. It's been a pleasant surprise.
So Justin, one thing I'm wondering is, okay, so you're listening, you're an individual YouTuber, but how can one of our local churches take this principle of listening and apply it to their local church? What would that look like, do you think?
Yeah, I think that this simple tool of listening is absolutely powerful. There's an Adventist Facebook group for YouTubers, and one of our friends was saying, hey, we want to do content about why people are leaving the church. Why do you think people are leaving the church? And there was a number of really good and helpful responses, and my response was just simple. How about instead of asking us, those of us who are still in the church, how about you just ask them? What would it look like if you put out an ad on Craigslist and invited 10 former Christians in your neighborhood, come in, give them $100 for their time, and just give them the floor, have an open Q&A, and just allow them to share their stories. Their stories of pain and rejection, their stories of maybe even abuse, their stories of doubt, and all the stories within it. And what would we learn from them, just actually listening to them rather than talking about them? And so I think that listening projects, whether it's non-believers or some of those movements like the Growing Young movement, which I know is really big down in Australia as well, listening projects make a huge difference in how you're able to build relationships with people.
And then what do you do with that information once you have it? You've listened, they've unloaded, and you now have a responsibility for whatever they've given you. What do you do with all of that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the response, because sometimes the responses are really good. Sometimes they're positive and they make you feel real good, and then other times they're kind of like daggers to the heart. It's like, oh my goodness, that one I wasn't quite expecting, or maybe even if I was expecting, I was hoping you would say it a little bit more kindly. I think when we open ourselves up to this constructivism, man, it can be really challenging. But I think that this is where prayer and just patience and a willingness to empathize with people is so important, because as we do that work, then we can actually go about the work of improving and getting better, and hopefully changing our church culture so that other people don't have to feel kicked out of the church or ostracized for the same reasons.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, we've sort of got something set up for you, Justin. I don't know if you were warned about this, or
he was warned.
He was warned.
Yeah.
No, come on, I want a bit of drama, Rachel. We thought it might be cool to have a sort of a YouTuber versus YouTuber quiz, and we have our very own YouTuber here in the South Pacific Division. He's been dropping videos at the end of all of our ACON broadcasts, and that is our very own Adrian Webster. So there he is, looking good, fine-looking fellow. So in what
we need to bring in our quiz master too.
We got a quiz master as well.
Yes, we need to bring in Peter.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
He has all the questions.
Ah, right. Peter's got the questions.
We lost.
Yep. Hey, I was just wondering, I mean, I know we've seen Adrian's videos, but Adrian, could you just tell us quickly in what sense you're a YouTuber? Because I'm still trying to get my head around that. Which videos are you dropping on YouTube, and how's that working?
Yeah, the channel is Seed. It's actually the first part of the address is my name, Webster Adrian Seed. But yeah, basically the way it started off was just wanting to put content out there that shared the gospel of Jesus. Originally started with some longer format stuff, and then as of late we've really been focusing more on the shorter stuff, the kind of thing that might get a share or a pass around in the social media type space, because not everybody has an hour to sit down, and I guess you've got to be pretty serious by the time you get to that point. And so there's definitely a space for that, and we do still do that, but a lot of the stuff we do for Hope Channel as well, which is longer format. But at the moment our focus tends to be on the shorter format.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, Peter, you're trying to tell us that miracles happen there. Possibly one of them is us sticking to time today, so we'll hand over to you.
Well, good luck. Well, since you're both YouTubers, I actually created a YouTube kind of quiz based on statistics. Now, the statistics are from February. Some of them are updated, but I mean, this stuff changes so quickly, and it's flexible. Some questions are going to be straight up, but some I'll let you each have a guess and whoever's closest. Okay?
Oh boy.
So question one.
Yeah, I'm scared now.
Which year was the first YouTube video created?
Oh,
You got me there.
2004?
No. Good guess. 2005 was the first year.
Wow.
Either of you know what it was called? April 23, first upload. It was called Me at the Zoo.
Oh, that's right.
Not that exciting. 18 seconds.
At the zoo.
I'm sure you've seen it. Okay, question 2. What will 20%, and now I want you guys to yell ding when you are dinging. What will 20% of people do in the first 10 seconds of your video?
Ding.
Justin.
Leave.
Yep. Make a good intro. That's the lesson. You've got to keep them there. Okay, now this one you get a guess each. How many videos are watched each day on YouTube? Each day.
Oh, wow. That's a good
Just
one.
guess.
Have a guess.
Yeah, just guess. This is a lightning round, guys.
Come
lightning
on.
round. Quick.
10 million.
10 million. Justin?
I want to say over 1 billion.
Justin's closest. It's 5 billion. Question 4.
my gosh.
I actually did a course in a study in a subject in big data, and it's quite crazy, some of this stuff. So data shows that the rate videos are uploaded to YouTube, it's just growing rapidly each year. So currently, how many hours of video content are uploaded every hour of the day? You get a guess each.
How many hours?
Just
Take a
million.
guess, guys. Justin guesses 1 million.
There was a
5
time. There was a time when
Justin's
you could actually
closest
read
again,
all the knowledge.
and
Yeah, you can't do
Justin's
that anymore.
closest again. It's only 18,000 hours every hour.
Oh,
But
wow.
if you watched an hour's worth, that would be over 2 years of your life without sleep. So question 5, here's some of the personalities. Famous YouTube vlogger, Casey Neistat. He's well known for 2 early videos in New York that went viral. One was about when to pull the safety stop on the emergency stop on the subway. What was the other one about?
Bike lanes.
Bike length, but you didn't ding, so be careful.
Oh, no.
I'll give it to you because I'm a good guy. Okay, YouTube is owned by US giant Google. What percentage of YouTube's viewers are inside the US?
Ding.
Justin?
51.
Adrian, would you like a guess?
What percentage?
Yep, are in the US.
Let's say 60.
It's 20%. 80%
Oh,
of viewers are not in the US.
That's awesome.
Okay, here's another one. Rachel, I hope you're keeping score here.
I'm not, because I'm keeping time. I'm keeping time, not score.
Okay. How many languages can you navigate YouTube in? Have a guess each. Come on.
Let's go with 25. No, 100. 100. 100.
15.
I'll go 100.
How many, Adrian?
15.
It's 80 languages at the moment.
Oh, Justin gets it again.
Yeah.
You see, you don't
that
need
the
to
quiz?
Two more
score it.
questions.
It's pretty easy.
Two more questions. Who in 2019 was the highest paid YouTuber?
Peter McKinnon?
No.
Oh, Ryan, the guy who opens the kid who opens toys. Ryan's Toys.
Justin gets it. 8-year-old Ryan Kaji. Ryan's World made $26 million last year.
Oh
So I think it's
gosh.
pretty clear that there's some children watching YouTube at some stage, hey? Okay, last question. Which channel currently has the most subs? It's not Ryan's World.
It's
Oh,
not
no.
PewDiePie. It's this Indian conglomerate now. I forgot what the name of it. T-Series.
Justin, you got it again. Indian Music T-Series has 149 million subs, but PewDiePie, who's quite a controversial guy now, he's next highest, and he's 106 million, and he's the highest individual. There we go. I think Justin,
around here.
you are clearly the bigger YouTube nerd.
And because of that, because Justin is the bigger YouTube nerd, we've asked Justin to give us some ideas about what Adrian's, just give us some critique about Adrian's site. And people pay big money for this kind of critique. So
Yeah, that's
Justin's
right.
he's gonna give
looking
some
forward to
ideas
this,
and
Justin.
tips. Yeah, Justin, let us know what you found.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
because YouTube React videos are the biggest thing now, so now we get the React video from Justin Koo.
So yeah, I got to watch a handful of your videos today, and I'm really impressed. I saw the channel trailers, watched through some of your playlists, and really impressed with the multiple cameras, the audio quality overall. I think the production has been really, really good. So I'm excited to see you out there and just taking this online mission seriously. So kudos to you. I think it's really awesome. And for you or for whoever else ends up watching this later and you're like, man, how else can I apply some of these tips? Center for Online Evangelism or SDA Data are two of my favorite resources. On either one of those websites, there's a video course on YouTube ministry specific that I think that can help anyone here. I see Jamie in the chat. Woot woot. That's SDA Data. There you go. For the major thing that I wanted to encourage you to think about, Adrian, is like the psychology of a new viewer. If you're thinking about your church members, people who have been a part of your community for a decade, 2 decades, however long they built the church theoretically, they're going to watch your content. They're going to be diehard supporters nearly no matter what you do. They're going to cheer you on every step along the way. The difference with new viewers is that you really have to grab their attention. And so paying attention to some simple questions like what do they need to read, what do they need to see, and what do they need to feel with every single piece of content that you're putting out there. So on one hand, a lot of your playlists and things like that seem to be heading in the right direction. I looked at just recently the latest uploads of your YouTube channel, and there's one common denominator with every single video, and that's your title. The title says live stream of the, I'm not going to try and pronounce that name, something Seventh-day Adventist in partnership with Seed.
Fungaray.
Help me with that word. What's that word?
Fungaray. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's
Fungaray.
the one.
Yeah.
So I think I want to say maybe the last 15 videos all have the same exact title. So in the same way that a pastor or an evangelist might spend a lot of time really thinking up a good, catchy title, it's maybe 10 times more important for a YouTuber to think of a good, catchy title. The people who are planning on attending your service were going to attend no matter what your title was, but that's not necessarily true of the casual YouTube viewer. So you got to think about what kind of title, what do they need to do, what do they need to read in order to click in? Think about questions that people might be asking, problems that they might be experiencing. Think about stories that you could be teasing and telling, or even just simple search queries and do some search engine optimizations. That's the first thing. What do new viewers need to read in order to be pulled into your content? Second thing I would say is what do they need to see? And that's the thumbnail. A thumbnail isn't necessarily ideal when it's just a random screen grab from a video, nor is it great if you're just reiterating exactly what the title says. Ideally, thumbnails also tell a story. They also tease a part of element or a kind of an aspect of the video that might be intriguing or inflammatory or clickbaity perhaps, but it still definitely does tell a story and even assists with the combination between title and thumbnail to give a clear value proposition. And then the third thing is, what do they need to feel? What do they need to experience in the first couple seconds I think Peter said 20 seconds. I think some other metrics are even shorter than that. I would say, what do they need to experience in the first 7 seconds of a video in order to say, you know what, I want to stick around for this.
Right.
In your playlists for, I think it's sound bites I watched, as well as there was another quick chats. I think on average it was about 45 seconds to a little over a minute before you actually got into the meat of what you were going to talk about for that video. And so I would just encourage you. The cinematics were done very, very well. The production was great, but I would kind of trim that down to under 10 seconds at the most, 7 seconds ideally, to really grab their emotions and get them feeling like they want to stick around.
Love it. That's awesome.
That's fantastic. So Rachel, how's our time? Do we have time for Adrian to sort of react and respond to that, or should he just go away and think about what he's done?
Give a 30-second reaction, and then we'll just really be grateful for everything that Justin's been able to share with us.
Oh no, absolutely, very, very grateful. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of feedback we have been needing and wanting, and we the challenge for us with the live stream titles is simply that the grand goal was always to do the live stream, come back, change it, edit up, write up the descriptions, and then life gets away from you, and before you know it, 3 weeks down, 10 weeks down the line, you've got all these things, like you say, they're the same title. So definitely it does need some tidying up and some sharpening up, and right on the money. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys both for being here, having giving us feedback. And this is what we love in this community. Like, if you have knowledge, pass the knowledge on, because there's no point to hold it inside of you. It lives when we share it with other people. So I love that we've been able to model this here today on the show. So yeah, thank you, Justin, for being with us. Hopefully we'll have you back for something else. And thank you, Adrian, for all the work you're doing.
Yeah, it's been really cool. Love your gamer chair, Justin. Really awesome. And thanks to Peter too for being our quizmaster. That was really awesome. Good to chat with you guys. Now, look, we got to move this along, Rachel, because we got some other awesome guests coming on. Who's the next one? I think you know Jamie. Her quite well. Yeah,
we'd love to bring Jamie on as well, because I think it's kind of natural, since Justin, he did a little intro for you.
Yes.
Telling us a little bit about the YouTube course that you have there with SDA Data. Maybe you can just introduce yourself and explain to people what SDA Data is all about. And welcome to Adventist Church Online Network broadcast.
Well, thank you.
Is that SDA dating, did you say?
No, I'm sorry. If you're single, we can't help you.
No, I'm
but
good.
I can help you connect and build relationships in the digital space. So maybe we can work with that. I don't know. So my name is Jamie Dom, and I'm the digital strategist for the North American division. And what we do at Digital Evangelism Strategies, our website is SDAdata, not dating, .com, is we provide resources to help the local ministry, local churches, personal ministries, up to conferences and unions, make data-driven decisions, but also utilize digital technologies to share the gospel, but also reach deep inside their communities and improve the well-being of their communities, because this is following Jesus' example. Because what did Jesus do? Jesus first attended to the spiritual, the emotional, the physical needs of people. Then he bid them come and follow. So we're trying to flip, the model on the head, because for too long we've been using digital strategies to promote our next event or come to our next event. And with all the negative that's going on, the one positive thing of COVID is it's forcing us to think about what is church without the building. And I think we've got locked into this mindset that church is a building when it's a people, and the kingdom of God is, 24/7, and we should be working to extend that experience beyond a building.
Hey, Jamie, you use words like, technology and platforms and digital data and stuff, and I start glazing over. Can you give us an actual example of perhaps a congregation or a ministry that has used some of the insights that you're helping to develop, and like what difference it's making? Put some flesh on it for us.
Well, I think it's still relatively new. I know different congregations, different churches that are doing bits and pieces of using technology. Of course, we're using it in our own local church to find ways to reach into the community and make a difference without even having to leave your house. So an example of that, in the current era, is ordering groceries for people, doing, tutoring through Zoom, hosting digital Bible studies everywhere. And this has got me so excited, especially as a new mom. It's not easy for me to make it to Bible studies. Is congregations across the United States, and I assume across the world, have utilized Zoom as a means to continue their Bible studies. And what has been amazing about that is now that we've stripped away the need to be in a physical location and those barriers to entry, such as, I have work or I have to drive, all that other stuff. You have people joining Bible studies from wherever they are. So I'm hearing just from congregations across the U.S. where their Bible studies have grown and they're having to break off and do smaller Bible studies because their prayer meetings that used to have 20 people show up now have 150 people showing up because people have left the church, left that particular church, moved to a different location, or for the first time in their lives, they can actually make it to prayer meeting, or they're being invited to Bible studies and prayer meetings and prayer groups because it's easy. You just send them a link and your friend can join. And so it really has stripped away a lot of these, what I refer to in our book, these barriers to entry, the things that keep people from coming. And it's made it so much easier and so much convenient and so much more accessible. And, without realizing it, we've actually been excluding people from the fellowship experience and the worship experience and the Bible study experience because we haven't embraced technologies.
Well, Jamie, you mentioned your book, so I have a copy here. I just want to show it to the camera.
Yes.
As you were talking in your book, and we're talking today about the journey that members can take, and you mentioned, going to Bible studies and being able to order groceries. From what I'm hearing you say, the experience of being online should go deeper than watching a live stream or, going to the church website. How would you say that a member can kind of go deeper into that experience? You touched on some points, but maybe you can just explain more clearly for people who may not have completely gotten it. What are some ways members can go deeper?
Some of the ways that they can go deeper and they can get involved in discipleship and evangelism, from the convenience of their homes, is just going online with intention. Oftentimes when we go online, it's to waste time or to, I hate to say snoop or something on other people. But what if we went online with the goal of building relationships?
And what does it look like building relationships? What do you think that looks like?
So what it looks like is actually really paying attention to what your friends, your connections are posting and doing something more than liking or typing thoughts and prayers. That's all good. There's nothing wrong with that, but taking action. And this ties into this idea of the gospel action. So if you see somebody who is expressing a felt need, that felt need could be, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent this month. People share an amazing amount of information online. They could just simply need prayer. They could have a sick relative. A felt need could be like, I'm moving on Sunday and I need help. So you can gather 10 of your friends together to go help them move.
Jamie, you're doing too much here, girl. You're asking us to do something. Liking is easy. Pressing that like button.
but it's natural to connect, and it's never been easier. And I mean, take meaningful action. One of the things, so I'm an extreme introvert. And so it's very hard for me to reach out. I like being the wizard behind the screen. But one of the things that I have challenged myself to do is when somebody is expressing pain, if somebody is expressing something, I do more than just say I'm going to pray for them. I'll record a prayer.
Do you do this in a private space when you do that something more?
Yeah.
Or do you do it publicly?
Not necessarily publicly. So I will actually send them a direct text. I may record myself petitioning God on their behalf and send that to them. You can do that with WhatsApp. You can do it with most smartphones. You can even send recordings via Facebook. You can do something a little bit more meaningful. You can see what is going on in someone's life. You can take action. You can ask questions. You can build relationships. You can get to know them. More than always having sort of this agenda as a Christian to try and we just want to get you in the building. We just want to get you into church. Ellen White talks about this idea of disinterested benevolence, where you do good just to do good. And so if somebody's asking for help or they're asking for something in one way or another, you can do that. And oftentimes it just takes reframing what we understand as ministry. Sharing the GoFundMe account because someone's parents have lost everything in a fire, which has actually happened to a friend of mine, is actually also an act of ministry because you're helping to share. If you can financially donate, that's also great. But you're actually paying attention to what people are posting online, and you're taking action, and you're showing that you actually care more than just your words. And the other thing you can do, and this is easy, and I was in a webinar a few days ago, and I am astounded by the number of conspiracy theories that have been sent to me via email, WhatsApp, Facebook direct message, even like Instagram. And I'm like, if you guys can bombard my inboxes with conspiracy theories, you can share the gospel. And this is like, that digital door knocking where you're sharing content. You don't necessarily have to create that content if that's just not your strong suit and you don't feel comfortable. You can share content that others are creating. I would recommend you personalize it and say why the sermon impacted you, or why this clip impacted you, or why this blog or this video or whatever it is. But you can share it on your social media profile page, and it will go into the news feeds of the people you're connected to. And so that person can choose to engage when it's convenient for them. And they can choose to start a conversation with you when it's convenient for them. And yeah.
I guess the reality is, Jamie, that there are millions of people online. There are so many people corresponding, putting their little 5 cents worth in. And that can, that can have the effect of making us go, oh, it's all too hard. There are too many people, too many needs. We just had a comment come through where someone's saying, what about those people who complain on Facebook? How do you engage deeper with them? I mean, but I guess a deeper question is, how do you decide out of all those people who you see commenting, who do you choose to go deeper with, to to bring on a discipleship journey? Because I guess the challenge is for a lot of us, whether it's an in-person church, whether it's an online experience, a lot of us tend to be consumers, rather than actually genuinely interacting with people. And it's much easier just to sit back and digest the content and move on to to another one. So how do you choose? How do you prioritize?
I think start small. So everybody, I believe, is uniquely positioned and uniquely gifted to reach certain people. And you don't have to reach the world. Not everybody is a Justin Koo who can get 100,000 people on his YouTube channel. That's awesome. And we need like a bunch of Justin Koos, don't get me wrong. But you are in a unique position to minister to your neighbor, or to minister to whoever it is in your network of digital influence. So pick somebody that you can relate to, that you think you have a way to reach, that their needs align with something you can help with. So, for example, my neighbor and my brother-in-law lost their jobs because of COVID. As a marketing background, really good with writing resumes, I helped them with their resumes. That's just an example, a small example of something you can do for somebody. And you choose it based on what you have to offer. And that's just a small way to start. And if you start small, more opportunities will open up, and you also become more comfortable.
Well, Jamie, I think we've been so inspired by what you've shared today. And actually, we want to give away a few copies of your book to our different unions. So right now, if you're watching, I want you to just type into the union page that you're on and tell us what you're going to do, what actionable thing you're going to do after this conversation. And we will choose some people at random. So we'll do it.
No, not at random. We'll choose the best. Because if it's random, then it's games of chance. This is not a game of chance. This is a game of skill, people.
Okay, so tell us what you're going to do, and your union will decide which one of you. So you have a chance, whatever union page you're on, to get a copy of the book here. I'll give it again just as an inspiration. Tell us what actionable thing you're going to do based off of Jamie and Justin's talk so far, and we're going to send that copy to you. And Jamie, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing in the digital space, the way you've been advocating in this space, the way you've been providing resources. Our church is blessed because of all of the work that you're doing. So we want to say thank you.
No, thank you. And, you're most welcome. But honestly, just like Justin, the conference, it was very inspiring when I was able to come down to the conference. And that actually was the catalyst to write this book.
Well, praise God.
And
he's been able to
so it
springboard so many
all
things.
works together. And I love this community because we all feed off of each other. There's so many creative ideas. And I feel like, in a sense, this book, this guide, I hope it really helps reframe the way we think of ministry, but it's the start of a conversation. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a lot of details that, I just encourage anybody who gets the book and reads it, pick some place that you can start and just start there. And it'll grow, and just be faithful with where your talents align, and it will grow. And this is a community of people who are just thriving and creative. And I feel like this book is just inspired by so many of the digital missionaries out there. And of course, many of them are quoted and cited, but it's just bringing all these ideas together for us to I think, reignite that spirit, that grassroots spirit that was in the apostolic church, but it was also how our church was founded. The Adventist Church was a grassroots movement, mostly by teenagers. So don't be limited by your age, whether you're older or whether you're younger. If you are online, you have influence. Figure out how to use it for the kingdom. You have a unique skill. You have a unique something you can offer. Everybody does. And this is where we can start.
Thank you for
Very
that inspiration.
encouraging.
Yes, we appreciate it. Well, we hope to catch you on another broadcast or another something that we're doing. We'd love to collaborate again with you.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
All right.
Thanks,
talk
Jamie.
to you later.
Bye.
Fantastic stuff, Rachel. That's really good. Thanks so much for bringing her on. Now, does what Jamie say link at all to what you wanted to present? You want to talk a little bit about models of church? Is there a connection here?
Well, I'm going to just flash them up on the screen, because we did chat about how we're going to talk about the different models of church. So if you've watched us over the past 4 weeks, then you've heard us talk about different churches, and we'll have this resource available on our website as well. But we're going to just go through quickly, and this is actually an inspiration for you to go back and look at past broadcasts. So we see here, Kellyville gave us an inspiration about hospitality last week, as well as doing recorded content. Navua Church in Fiji, they were talking to us about helping a church in Australia, so that's another model. Rosny in Tasmania, they talked about how once a month they go live for the entire service, and then the other months they do a more relaxed live. At June Valley in PNG, we saw how they were live streaming to other churches. In Peoria Church, we saw how Matt Lucio was saying that, you can make your church into a creative center. Numia Church was talking about how they are using Zoom to continue with, Bible studies. Hamilton was talking about their vision. Manor Park in New Zealand, we see that they've done a consultation. Whangarei, they have their YouTube channel. At Avondale, they have their podcast. At Papsta, they're doing things with their children's ministry. In Pororoiki and Vanuatu, they were using a business person was actually helping them to be able to go live. We know, Kent, you're with Signs Magazine, so there's an opportunity there for churches. Hope Radio, we saw in Fiji how they're working together with the local churches. We have Mums at the Table content that's possible as well. So the opportunities are endless for what you can actually do, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel about what your local church can do. You can kind of see what other churches are doing and figure out if that fits into your context. So I think that that's one really exciting thing that we have available.
Yeah, no, that's really fantastic, and it's good just to be reminded of all those different churches that we've seen profiled over the last few weeks. From all over the South Pacific Division. It's good to see everyone representing, and good to see New Zealand punching above its weight as usual, which is fantastic. Now, we have a great video coming up now from Pastor Andres Flores. Can you intro this for us, Rachel?
Yeah, he's out of Chicago, so it's kind of like we're having a digital discipleship conference throwbacks. We're having a lot of our former speakers on the broadcast today, but he's really inspiring us to push deeper and deeper into that relationship. So we want to cue that up and learn a little bit from him.
Okay, check this out, pew warmers.
Hello, everyone. I am really happy to greet you here and to be with you today. Happy Sabbath. I just wanted to say that I'm really excited for your ministry. My name is Andres. I am the pastor of Epic Church. If you're ever in Chicago, please make sure to visit us. Let me know. We will be very happy to host you. Okay, so today I am going to talk to you about the reality that over 4 months we've been developing this digital ministry. How are you going to sustain this digital ministry? The gospel is primarily an event that is communicated. We communicate the gospel, but for which objective? Why do we communicate the gospel? We communicate the gospel because we want to help people initiate and sustain a strong relationship with God. However, sustaining a relationship and initiating a relationship with God and helping people to initiate a relationship with God now has changed. Everything is more is taking place more through digital mediums. So how is this going to happen? How is this going to take place? If we understand the gospel as an event of communication, and if we understand that communication as a desire for people to initiate and sustain a strong relationship with God, we must be willing to hold a very difficult tension. And the tension is that, number one, not everyone is going to show up to your digital event. Not everyone is going to show up every time to your digital event. Number two, not everyone is going to show up to your face-to-face worship or discipleship event. The key here, the secret here, is to develop and to commit with your media and your production and your discipleship teams to commit to a long-term process of recreating your digital experience and delivering that digital experience in meaningful and relevant ways. There is a Bible verse that says that one of the tasks of leaders is to understand the times, is to interpret the times. And this task, this duty, this activity, this behavior of understanding and interpreting the times is very crucial for leadership, for leaders who are doing face-to-face discipleship or digital discipleship. We must understand the time. And as we understand the time, we understand that right now everyone's developing different rhythms in terms of comfort, in terms of how they're engaging with content. And it's like the one thing that we must provide a constant. We must provide a variable that it will not change. We must provide a constant. This constant must be your digital delivery, your digital experience of discipleship, evangelism, and mission, your ministry of presence. But as you do that, you and your team and your discipleship and digital production team must commit to a constant process of recreating what you're doing, a constant process of evaluating your own biases, a constant process of evaluating how you are doing things, how the times are changing, how people's contexts and environments are changing, how your digital worship is interfacing with the environments and the changes brought by crisis, by culture, by pain, by suffering, by uncertainty. That is the tension, but because usually we solve that tension by just delivering the same thing the same way, even if it is an innovative product, we stick to that. And what our task now is to even evaluate how we're doing that in order to sustain a relevant and appealing digital discipleship ministry through this crisis that we're experiencing right now. I am praying for you. Let me know if you have any questions. We're here to support you. All the best to you and to the beautiful church in your area. God bless you, and may you have a beautiful day.
Seems like a really great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about that process of wowing, he really did that. When I attended his church, he was the only pastor I've ever had who called me like the week after I had attended his church, and that was completely memorable for me.
Wow, quiet but really warm. Yeah. Now, look, speaking of awesome people who are really warm and friendly, we have now joining us from Viva Bris Vegas, Pastor Ray Mwanga.
Hey, guys.
Are you there, Ray? There he is, looking good. Yes, in college we called him the bro with the fro, but the fro's gone. He's looking more intellectual these days.
We try.
Welcome. You know, you're doing some really interesting things in the digital space. If you could just tell us a little bit about them. I know that you've organized some of the Samoan ministers and the ministry around that, and also what's happening with your local church. Just let us know who you are and let us know what you're up to in the digital space.
Yeah, talofa everyone. My name is Raymond Anga, and I'm currently a pastor here in South Queensland Conference here in Brisbane. And I guess at the beginning of COVID, it basically shocked everyone, particularly in our Samoan churches. Online has never been something even thought of or even suggested, something way like, I don't know, maybe Back to the Future sort of stuff. But because of what's happened, and obviously within our Samoan and ethnic churches, our Pacific Islander churches, obviously there's a big, generational gap when it comes to technology and the purpose of it and how it's used effectively. And so when that happened, we called together a meeting with all the Samoan ministers in Australia, or as much as we could, who was online, and we said we need to create a platform where we can still minister to our members, our congregations, and also as an opportunity, as a platform to share the gospel to other people. And so lo and behold, we created the page very quickly, the Facebook page. And so we discussed, and we came to a conclusion that we wanted it to wanted the messages to be consistent. So basically there was a roster to do like devotions in the Samoan language or in the English language as well, understanding that our audience was both second or third generation Samoan Adventists, as well as our older generation as well, which is like my parents' age, the boomer generation. And so that was successful. We had devotions, and on Sabbaths, we decided to have minimal, sermons, if that makes sense. So one pastor would he'd do a Sabbath school discussion with the crew, and then another pastor would do a sermon, and then myself and my church would do something in the afternoon in the English language. And so, yeah, since then we've had a lot of great feedback, and just recently we had feedback from from a lot of our church ministers saying that there was a program that we do in the afternoon that we created was called Viral Conversations, and the whole purpose of ideas worth spreading. That's the whole catchphrase. And the whole idea was to get about five ministers, Samoan ministers, and we range from different ages in terms of generation, different cultural upbringings as well, and different experiences of our Adventist faith. And so the whole purpose of that was to have an amalgamation of these generations of ministers and talking about issues that sometimes are taboo within our ethnic churches, but also some issues that we wanted to unpack and really help our churches and our Samoan people transition into potentially what an online church could look like, or what a home group could look like. And so, we're still heading in that space. We're still making impact. And I guess one of the positives that has come about is that we're reaching a lot of Samoan people outside of our Adventist faith, of other Christian faiths, and people who don't even attend church. And so that has been a massive shift in terms of how effective this online space has really been. And obviously I catch up with my aunties and uncles every now and again, and they just love what's happening online, and they're just enjoying, a lot of the topics that we discuss, but also the devotions from ministers from all over Australia. So that's probably the first part. The second part.
Sorry, just to pause there. I guess the takeaway for other churches, if they want to apply something like this, is figuring out a way to work with other churches. There's obviously synergy that you found with working with other churches. I think that's a good takeaway for a model if someone's thinking, how can I apply this to my church? Yeah.
That's right. And probably that's the another exciting thing as well, is that when we put the call out to all our Samoan ministers and we said, hey, let's collaborate on this, every single one of them put their hand up and said, whatever.
How many churches, Ray? How many?
You know what? I couldn't even tell you, but there's up to I think maybe 30 Samoan ministers in Australian Union Conference. And so there's basically majority. I know up here in Brisbane, we have about 11. In New South Wales, we have maybe another 6 or 7. And again, you're talking Australia. So we're well up into the 20s and plus. But, as you've both experienced in an ethnic church, even though it's one church, it's like gazillion people. It's like the people of Israel. So that's been really exciting and interesting just to see the space happen. Obviously, a handful of our older generation have really got itchy feet wanting to return back to a normal church, but they also understand the restrictions and the challenges that come with it. But more or less, they're just happy in terms of they have the content, but they're also interacting with their other church members outside the Sabbath hours. So they're connecting with each other otherwise.
Fantastic.
Also, you were saying that there were some other ways that you've seen some of your church members going a bit deeper in that relationship beyond just watching the live stream, which is important, but you've seen them also grow spiritually during this time as well.
Yeah, and so I guess one of my other churches that I've been looking after, we really just committed to being faithful and consistent. And I guess one of the motto or the themes was, you know, if you're faithful in the little things, God will continue to reward you in the big things. We didn't know how the live stream was going to work. When we watched our first ever live streams, we were just cringeworthy moments. We're like, hello, testing, is the mic on? And, you know, we're asking people, can you hear our instruments and sort of stuff like that. I'm sure all of us experienced at some point. But because we were consistent every single week, and even now, we're seeing God be very faithful to us. And I think that part that you were pointing out, Rachel, is that each week we made a challenge and said, hey, let's really put out or download the videos, which is the tithe and offering videos from our conferences from the GC, and just put it out there with a challenge and say, hey guys, I know we're in a time of crisis, but you know, let's be faithful to what God has given us. And so we have been playing those sorts of videos within our live stream right from the very beginning. And up until recently, we got a report from our treasurer saying that our tithe giving had increased exponentially and our offerings had increased exponentially. This is all during COVID. So pre-COVID, it was okay. But during COVID, my treasurer reported that it's just skyrocketed. And even more to that, they said that there are people who were giving their tithes and offering who don't belong to our church, who they recognize the names, that they're like, well, they don't go to our church. These people had been giving just as much as frequent and regularly since we started these videos. And so we've seen those sort of blessings come to fruition. And yeah, just it's really incredible when you really put the challenge out to people to be faithful, to be to be obedient, and just do what God has asked us to do, even when we had no idea what we were doing. He still rewards and he's still faithful. So that's probably one of the biggest things that's really happened in terms of our faithfulness, our small little faithfulness in the space that we have, and saying, hey, God has continued to reward us. And
that's awesome, Ray. That's really awesome. Just quickly before we finish, has it just been Australian Samoans and churches who have connected with you, or has it been like New Zealand or elsewhere?
Basically globally, globally. So we've had Samoans from all over the place. New Zealand, obviously there's some in Samoa, America, Samoa, in the United States as well. We had some parts of Europe, so which is really interesting because some Samoans are second and third or even fourth generation speaking. So they may be Samoan, but they don't understand. But the fact that there's a platform where both English and Samoan are shared, these people are also connecting onto our page. And so we have people, tuning from America, which is like early hours of the morning, but they still are willing to wake up and hear something from someone. So that's been really, really, inspiring.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
We want to thank you for all that you're doing. Like, I loved seeing the collaboration. I think that's going to be one of the hallmarks of the online space, is that our church is going to start collaborating in new ways that we haven't thought about before. And we want to encourage you in what you're doing, to continue doing it and continue to inspire all of us. And hopefully we can collaborate with you or have you on another broadcast in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, team. You guys are doing a great work.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, God. Thank
You're
you.
awesome, man.
That's a great story.
Gotta love Ray. He's one of the good guys.
Versus.
Well, you know.
Well, also we have someone coming from quite far away in South Africa. So we have Renier Horn, who's actually going to chat with us. He made a video about how to compress videos, and that was quite technical and very helpful, especially for those who know what they're doing, which is not me. But
Hoe gaan dit, Renier? Good to see you.
Dit gaan baie goed.
Ja, goed bij goed.
Oh, that's fantastic to know.
Always showing off, Kent. You're always showing off.
Well, that's all the Afrikaans I know.
Well done, Ken.
Renier, we wanted to ask you about, I know that you ran an evangelistic series in South Africa as well as a virtual communion, and these are also ways that we can see church members going a bit deeper, beyond just that watching, but having that spiritual experience. Are you able to summarize a bit of what happened during that time?
Yeah, so COVID-19 has really put us in a space where we as a ministry, we traveled a lot in South Africa, presenting seminars and a week of prayers. We've been to over 50 churches in the last 7 years, and it's really shut us down. And then our conference president approached me, as we have our own YouTube channel where I also upload videos weekly, and he asked, can't we do something for the conference? So then in our conference, we've got the Afrikaans people, we've got the English people, and then we've got the Zulu people. So I said, well, let's start 3 YouTube channels for all 3 languages. And then we do the Sabbath school, the lesson study, and the divine service every week. Then we expanded the English to a Vespers on Friday, and then a Q&A that myself and another elder friend of mine do. People are very excited about these programs for Sabbath. Being stuck in your home and not being able to fellowship is not easy for many, many people. So we started doing that, and then I said to the president, let's do something different. Let's do a whole weekend, like a revival weekend. And that's where we had Pastor Adrian Webster also part of the weekend, and Pastor Justin Strauss from New Zealand, both people that we know from South Africa. And we had also Dr. Eric Walsh from the United States, and it was a real blessing. And I said to the president, it's actually my wife's idea. That's why, your wife is always a good person to have next to you.
My husbands, listen well, husbands.
If you want to know more about marriage, you can go to our YouTube channel. We talk about that too. And she said, why don't we have a communion service? I was like, I don't know if that's going to work, typical husband, it's not your idea, so it doesn't really sound that good. But then the Lord took over as I surrendered myself to him, and he said, no, this is going to work. So I said to the president, you do the service, record the foot washing on its own, record the communion of the bread and the grape juice on its own, and then I'll edit it together, and then we broadcast it. And it was amazing. The views went through the roof. People were so blessed that they could have communion during COVID. People could wash their own, families could wash their own feet. My wife did a communion bread recipe before the time that I filmed, uploaded a week before. So if you don't know how to make unleavened bread, this is how you make it. And then we even had feedback from New Zealand, people watching the communion in New Zealand, and that they were so blessed by it. So it was really, really a great weekend. And since that, we've had another weekend where we broadcasted programs for the family. We're planning a marriage weekend somewhere in the near future. So really online is really helping. We're doing Bible studies. People are emailing us saying, we've discovered the truth through YouTube. What can we do? And on Fridays, our ministry's got a Bible study. And we got people from the United States joining, from India, and then South Africans joining the Bible studies. We do counseling through the online services. So really, God has really taken COVID and worked it for the good. And really, you got the YouTubers like Justin and Bible Flockbox and these guys that got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And now he's awakened even the rest of us and saying, use technology so that we can reach more people. And the impact has really, really shown that this is how you reach people when you can't be there. You can actually do more than what you used to.
Renia, of course, everyone's aware when they think of South Africa of some of the difficulties in the racial history of the country, and when I hear you say English, Afrikaans, and Zulu, a part of me cringes and thinks, oh man, this is a way of separating the church into ethnic groups. But are some of these programs you're talking about actually like mingling and like connecting people together? I mean, does online actually provide an opportunity to break down barriers in perhaps a way that hasn't been happening in a live church environment?
So what we do for like the Zulu people is it's specifically in their language, and obviously the English and Afrikaans people won't understand. And for the Afrikaans people, it's specifically in their language. And once again, the Zulu people and many of the English people won't understand. But on the English channel, it's more a diversity. So we've got Zulu people speaking English, Afrikaans people speaking English, and then your English speakers. So then we cater for everyone, doesn't matter your color. So it's just language-based when it comes to the Zulu and the Afrikaans, because there are some Afrikaans people, you would think it's the 21st century, but if you preach a sermon in English, they don't understand. They like,
it's not the language of heaven, brother. Yeah.
Yes, it's not the language of heaven, as they say when it comes to Afrikaans. And it's the same with the older generation of Zulus. They don't understand the English and the Afrikaans, obviously. So you need to speak their language. So it's more a language thing than culture, even with the background of the issue South Africa has had.
Sure.
So, Bernier, if you were to give churches like one final message of what you'd like to tell them, how they can implement some of the things that you all have done, what would that be?
I would say appoint someone to do this, to really focus on this, because many times the pastors don't have time, the elders don't have time, etc. Find someone in your congregation, in your conference, in your union that can really help you to coordinate, get the programs together, upload it like I'm doing for my conference. So there is programs every week. If it was dependent upon the president or anyone else, it wouldn't have happened. So appoint someone to do it.
Who has that skill set.
Find someone with that skill set, and then it would happen, and you would reach more people, your own members and beyond.
That's very practical advice. We want to thank you for waking up so early, because we know it's early for you to join us for this broadcast, but what you've shared has been really, it's been inspirational as well as actionable, that people can go back and say, oh, this is something that we can do as well. So we want to thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Now we're going to profile something that's quite close to home for us, Rachel. Some of our colleagues at Adventist Media have been involved in quite an innovative project over the last few years. And I think you've personally become a bit more involved yourself, like being a mum yourself with Mums at the Table.
Yeah, so I've been on the show as well as now helping in some of the other parts. But I think the most important part is to help the churches understand how they can get involved. And I think that's what we see here in this video. We'll see how a local church member has gotten involved in Mums at the Table and how you could do it too. So this is something that's actionable for you and your church.
Haven't seen this. I'm looking forward to it.
The Mums at the Table ministry is unique in that there's no specific structure, like, you're not constrained to the formally run playgroup or Sabbath school program. Rather, mums can just organize catch-ups in their own time, do things at their own pace, and find activities that suit their family. Like we have some mums who are interested in doing hikes with their kids. So it's about finding that common ground, and then, just maintaining relationships. And I think it falls, it really falls under personal ministries, because you're building relationships with people in the community. And of course, while there is a hope that this can feed into the church ministries, such as inviting people to adventurers or Sabbath school, but I think the heart of the matter is that we're essentially doing what Jesus told us to do, to love and to serve one another. And I think when we're doing this, I believe God will grant us opportunities to share our testimony and to talk about Him with other people. So please pray for this ministry, not just in Adelaide, but for the ministry all across Australia and New Zealand. And mums out there, do join your local group if you have one, and you may be surprised at how God can use a Facebook group to prepare the soil for His seed to be sown.
Oh, I'm so impressed, and my mom's going to be so happy. She's been bugging me ever since I mentioned
Where's
Esther
the
Shawn.
Rachel?
Yes, and where's Esther Shawn? We need to get her on here so we can tell her how much we loved what she was doing.
That was fantastic,
yes,
Esther.
Amazing.
I've never seen anyone lip sync the harp so well before.
Sorry, I'm just having some audio trouble.
Oh,
Testing,
That's
testing,
unfortunate.
1, 2, 3. Can you hear us now?
I just can't hear
No.
at the moment.
oh,
I can't
it's all
hear
right.
it.
Well, what we
Hello?
want to do today, as Esther is pulling her audio together, is that we want to just chat a little bit about the process that she's gone through over the last few weeks. So if you followed since week 1, and if you haven't, you can always go back to week 1 and catch up on what's been happening. Esther Sean is comms director at her church in Manor Park in New Zealand, and we've been going through a process during the week. I will go and I will we'll have a chat together. We'll talk about what's going on, and then she implements, and then we get to catch up to see what's going on.
Yeah. Can
We're having a
Rachel,
little bit
can can you give us a summary, Rachel, on what
I've turned
you've
it off.
covered with Esther and Manor Park so far? Like what points have been covered and what improvements have been made?
Yeah, so the first week we chatted a little bit about the ministries that they have, which are Floorball, they have Adventures, Pathfinders, and CHIP. Then we talked about the calls to action that they should establish within their church. We worked on a content calendar together. She assigned things to her different team members. Then her team members were excited because they had something very specific to do. And then we chatted a little bit about this online visitor journey that we went through last week. And this past week, we just kind of talked about how things have been going. And from what she told me, there are many things she had thought about doing before, but just having a specific plan, having the accountability, and having ideas and structure, especially once we went through that journey where she could actually see what she was trying to accomplish. It looks like she's having too many audio troubles, but this is a summary of what has happened. So I think, from what I understand, it's been a really helpful process for her.
Okay, all right. And is this the sort of thing that that you think could maybe be offered to other churches who are looking to, I guess, boost their digital presence, just wanting to know like how to go about what they're doing more strategically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we want you to do, because this is the actionable day, right? If you're watching and you're within our division, especially, if you're within another division, maybe they can help you. But within our division, with one of the unions, whatever page you're on, if you would like a consultation, we would love for you to just send a message right now on the page that you're on, or put it in the comment section, because we're taking this process we've done with Esther Sean, and we'd like to do it with more churches so that we can actually come up with a process. Obviously, we can't do this across everyone, and it's we'll be able to have this process and then be able to roll it out so more churches can benefit from it. So let us know now on the union page that you're watching on.
Okay, so basically there should be people, and like the AUC, the NZPUC, like all 4 unions around the South Pacific Division, who are there to help resource and give some support to churches wanting to up their game when it comes to their online presence.
Yeah, so if you want to have that experience like Esther Sean had, then let us know whatever page you're watching on.
Yeah. Now, as we've been discussing this, people have been bringing up issues around, what about online safety? Because obviously when you go into the online space, we suddenly new words get created like Zoom bomber, and so these are issues. And our the South Pacific Division has an associated agency called Risk Management Service. They look after insurance aspects, and they've been providing us with some videos through this series. And I understand we've got one now to check out.
Yep, so they're definitely resourcing us in that area. So we're going to check it out now.
How can you help your local church to reopen its doors and avoid any risks that might jeopardize that outcome? How do you decide if combining in-person and online worship is a sustainable model for your church? Once again, we can use risk management thinking to help you achieve your goals. The closure of churches is certainly not something anyone would have wanted, but we must protect the longevity of our mission by not breaking the law, and we must protect people from harm. So the greatest risk to our churches at the moment is probably someone showing up unwell, or having been in contact with a COVID case or returned from a COVID hotspot. You can communicate frequently through a variety of channels to reinforce the message to worship online if unwell, rather than come to church. You can also reinforce the message to keep physical distance and to wash hands to prevent the spread of infection via the same communication-focused control measures. If you've got some web skills, you can help your church implement digital solutions to mandatory numbers for church gatherings, such as online ticketing. One church that we know of has capacity for 100 worshippers, but they limit the number of tickets they release online to around 60 or 70 to allow for walk-ins and people who didn't or couldn't book online. Another way you can help your church is by setting up a system for contact tracing, such as QR codes for contactless registration. But remember that this data collection is to be used for the purposes of contact tracing only and must be stored securely for a minimum of 28 days. Does your church have a plan for what to do if a confirmed COVID case has been on site? You can help your church's COVID safety team develop a response plan with the guidance and advice of your local conference or mission office, and create a communication plan to inform your members, guests, and service providers about any closure or cleaning. We suggest that you communicate clearly and often with your congregations. A great model is the Eden's Landing Adventist Church, who made a fun video that explains to members the changes to in-person worship and assures them of the steps they are taking to protect the health and safety of anyone who comes to their church. You can find their video on Facebook, but remember to keep the tone of your communication warm and friendly and not overbearing. Some of our people are experiencing overwhelm and stress, so let's keep that in mind in how we communicate by showing some compassion and some love. Speaking of compassion, we must acknowledge the incredible work and phenomenal effort of those involved in online church ministry since the pandemic began. I know that burnout has been mentioned previously, and I want to remind you of what Pastor Eddie Hippolyte said a couple of weeks ago, and that is that burnout happens when our capacity and our ability can no longer meet the expectations placed upon us. With that wisdom in mind, we suggest that with any return to or combination of in-person and online worship, that you ask the following 2 questions. Number 1, do we have capacity? Does your team need a rest, or are they eager to keep up the momentum of online ministry? Or are the COVID-safe requirements for in-person worship just too complex for you and your team to manage effectively? Do you have the time, budget, equipment, expertise, and energy to achieve your desired outcome? Number 2, is the reward worth the risk? Are the benefits of the activity greater than potential risks to your health and well-being, or that of your team or congregation? Protecting yourself and your team members from potential psychological or physical injury should always be a priority. The answers to these questions will help you focus your energy on what you can do that is sustainable for at least a few more months. We'd encourage you to also look to the example of other churches who've already been there and done that, like Rosny Church in Tasmania, Fox Valley in New South Wales, and of course Eden's Landing in Queensland. But we also ask that you speak with your local conference or mission office for their official advice if you're unsure about any of your plans. Also remember, there is no insurance cover available that will respond to COVID infection, so please make sure that you keep yourself and others protected and ensure that you follow local laws and health directives. Remember, we're here to support and enable your ministry, so feel free to call or email us if you have any questions about this presentation. You can also visit the RMS website or Facebook page, which has links to resources and information to help you manage your COVID risks for the Adventist Church online and in person. Thanks for watching and take care.
Well, I think that was quite useful to kind of understand how you can look at all the risks that are around and how we can deal with them, but still have a safe and, helpful environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Esther, she's on. Can you hear us this time, Esther?
I can. Sorry, my computer decided to play up just at that moment.
That's all right.
Your harp playing was awesome, Esther. Thank you. But sorry, Rachel, I interrupted you.
Oh no, I was just going to say, do you think you can just tell us quickly about the impact that the consultation process has had for you and for your church, and encourage any other churches if they're interested in that process as well?
Yeah, sure. So I think probably the biggest thing with the consultation progress has been that it's provided a lot of clarity as to what are we doing as a ministry and how can we run more efficiently. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend it. It just really helps to narrow in what are you doing, how can you work effectively together, and where are you going. I mean, this week we were looking more at the journey, and I was just like, yeah, it really makes sense when you put it all in there, not just to be doing things, because as Christians it's so easy to just be doing things, but to be doing things intentionally with purpose will make us even more effective in our ministry. And so I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Well, yeah, we want to thank you for going on the journey, because I learned a lot working with you, and about the thinking and what might be useful and helpful. And hopefully the work that we've done with you will be able to benefit many, many more churches as well, because you've given us, this feedback.
Yeah. Thanks for making yourself vulnerable, because it's hard to admit, that you don't know it all. None of us do, though. Let's face it. And it's just fantastic that we've been able to learn from one another, through these 5 weeks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Okay, well, it's time to go to the imagination station with Adrian now and have another Imagine video.
Imagine going on a journey and getting a flat tire and discovering you have no tools to help you change the tire on the side of the road. Or imagine trying to cut your lawn without a lawnmower and all you've got is a pair of scissors. Or imagine you're trying to build a house and you don't have a hammer, a nail gun, or the tools that you need. The Bible refers to the family of God, those who make up the church of God, as tools in the toolbox of God to accomplish His vision. You see, we use tools to help us build, create, or fix things that we have a picture of in our mind. They help us to bring our ideas to life. Well, here's the radical idea for you. Every single one of us that make up the family of God are a tool in the toolbox of God. And the Holy Spirit, with the divine vision of God, employs each and every one of us in a specific way to bring the vision of God for this world, which is the salvation of the world, to life and to fruition. You have a special place in the work of God. You have a special place in the mission of God. And we can't do without you. That's true whether we're talking about the Church of God and its mission in person, one-on-one, or whether we're talking about the church and its vision and its mission in the digital space, in the virtual world. Whether you are a visionary with a great idea or a content creator with the tools and the abilities to take that idea and bring it to life, or whether you're someone that finds their place in sharing and distributing those ideas that have been brought to life by the content creator, or whether, even more importantly, you are the person that's willing to engage with others who are experiencing and coming into contact with that content, or whether you're like the librarian, the curator that collects all this great material, sharing the message of Jesus and brings it together so that your church, so that your website, so that your digital presence has this collection that makes up the message of God to the world. We need every single one of you. We all have our place in person, one-on-one church, as well as in the digital space that is the church in the virtual world. Whether in person or whether digital, we need you. We need your gifts to help create a journey for those who don't yet know the Heavenly Father to find their way back. You see, this world is going somewhere. The Church of God is going somewhere, and Jesus is coming soon. Whether in person or whether in the digital space, your skill set, your ability to help bring to life God's vision of salvation, to invite a world who desperately needs to come home, that they may be with you for time and for eternity in the presence of God, you have that unique role to play that no one else can. And in a world the size of ours, and in a digital space that is basically the size of infinity, we need as many voices, as many tools in the toolbox doing their thing to craft the vision of God. You have a place, and we need you.
Oh, inspirational stuff there from Adrian. Yeah, really thought-provoking. Can't quite figure out that blue helmet there. Not sure I'd ever put it on my head, but yeah.
Way to ruin a moment.
Great video. Really inspirational to sort of to find your place, that we all have a mission. Now we've totally blown our timeline again, Rachel, as per usual. But I know you've been really keen with calls to action. So just run through quickly. What other calls to action that we want everyone to
So if
take
you're wondering
on.
where to from here, you can, if you haven't done yet, sign up at AdventistChurchOnline.com that you see at the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to join us for a digital discipleship challenge, which is starting at the beginning of September. Esther Sean's church will be going on that journey, so you can do that with her. You can sign up, as we talked about previously, on this AdventistChurchOnline.com/Church Online Visitor Journey, where you're going to get a copy of both of these online visitor journey as well as the online member journey. Or if you want a church consultation, you can let whatever page you're on right now know that you'd like to be part of that consultation process. So there's many ways you can get involved, as well as all the things you've heard about today. We want to thank you for going on this journey with us over the past 5 weeks. We've seen so much impact that we're going to start doing this monthly, and our next broadcast will be the 26th of September. I haven't twisted Kent's arm yet to be involved in that process, so I won't do that here on air.
Kent likes his Sabbaths too much, but yeah.
I know, but we want to thank you, though. We want to thank you for all that you've done over the past few weeks. It's been a huge impact that you've been able to have in this digital space. So we want to say thank you for everything you've done, and for everybody, for our producers, for all of our team members at the different unions. It's been an awesome journey, and we hope that you've found benefit as well. Wherever you're watching, you should see the workshops that are going to be after this broadcast. So you can hop in there and join us for one of those workshops. But we just want to say thank you for being part of the journey.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been really inspirational to see, people all over the division just, getting in there and putting their passions and talents to work, whether it's content, whether it's technical, whether it's strategic. Yeah, it's been really good, very inspirational. I've enjoyed being part of it, and thank you, Rachel, for taking a lead, and Adrian and Victor Kulikov and other people. It's been really, really fantastic. So yeah, workshops coming up now. I guess you guys know the deal now, how to go about that.
You'll find them in all of the places we're used to finding them. But thank you so much, and we've enjoyed this time with you. And see you next time on the Adventist Church Online Network broadcast.
See you guys.
See ya.